Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 15 of the IFL F3 Championship, brought to you by Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing. We are here for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at the famous Imola racetrack. I'm alongside my partner, Lewis Archer. Lewis, what can we expect to see from the race here today?
Yeah, I'm very excited actually. There's obviously we've got our obvious title fight on the line here. We'll go into that more. But yeah, it's quite a hot day today. I've noticed we're looking at the session details there, and we've been thrown a little bit of a wobbly here by iRacing. It's 28 degrees C or 82 degrees F, depends on where you come from in this world. But that's hot for a November session. We're coming to a close now in this session, so in the season. So these races are in a virtual realm accurately to the time we are, so the end of November. And at 28 degrees, that's a hot session, and hotter than I'd expect it to be for sure. But yeah, time's looking pretty competitive. We're just rolling off the end of our practice session now. We've just got a bit of an altercation coming out the pit lane. You can just see it behind on the stream there. I just watched the same thing there. Yeah, great circuit this. I think that the most obvious thing to point out about Imola is there are no real straight lines. Even the straights, there's a bit of science to it. You've got it just has a couple of kinks down every single straight, or it just makes you think a little bit more than just driving in a straight line, which obviously when you're fighting, as we can see with the real F1 guys, when Bottas and Russell came together in the F1 this year, it can just lead you into an accident, especially going into turn one and things like that. So yeah, stuff to look out for. We're just rolling into our 25-minute qualifying session in about 20 seconds. But yeah, timing board's looking a bit that's looking a bit all over the place, isn't it? We can start to talk about who's got what. Well, I guess so, it's practice, isn't it? But yeah, Matt Turner there looking pretty good on the top. Redman sat in second. That's the highest I think she's been in any practice session. Height, she missed the last race for whatever reason, is back to continue her title charge, is in third. Matt Steltflug there again, finding some raw speed there. So things seem to have moved forward from Suzuka onwards. So yeah, I think we're going to be in for an interesting race tonight. And round 15, what an incredible season.
And that's exactly, as you saw just on the board there, that's exactly what the Kuda Works team really does need right now. Over the last race, they took the lead from Caitlin Height and RSR Esports in the Constructors Championship. You see Matt Turner's up on top of the board. You can tell that he's been putting some time in and that he's been getting it ready to go. So he's up there. But with Matt Stelflug, his teammate there, it really does put you in a good position for the Constructor standings. Caitlin Height is very fast. She can snag some good points. So with those two being up there in the top 4, top 5, if they can produce those results today, they could probably stay in front and maybe even gain a little bit of ground on Caitlin Height in the constructor standings just before we finish the season. We've got 4 more races to go. We finish our final leg of our tour here in Europe, starting here with Imola. And it is going to be a fantastic 4 races. We've got battles heating up in both sides of the standings, the drivers and constructors. And we've got some really fast guys up at the front that are really still itching for a win. We've got a few drivers out there. Julie Redmond's fairly quick. She hasn't gotten a win yet. I don't believe Matt Stelflug's actually gotten a win yet this season. So there's quite a few drivers up there that have been running in the top 5 consistently. That are just still waiting for that quick break to make it up into that top step of the podium.
That's it. I mean, we've got to talk about the main story here is, can Caitlin Height take her title today? She needs a big haul of points to do this week. So she needs, I think she's got something like 63, and with 3 more rounds after this, it's 25 a hit plus the 2, so she needs an 81 point. Do you know what I mean? It is mathematically possible for her to take the title today, but Turner's got to bin it and DNF at the back, but that would seal the deal. So today there is a very small chance that Height could take that title today, and she's worked incredibly hard for it. she lost the constructors, well, her team lost the constructors last round to the Cuda Works guys. So I wonder, again, with Steltflug up there with the early provisional times, I wonder if they can keep that for the next 3 rounds, or with this one 4 rounds. So anything to play for. And they're 4 really well-known tracks, aren't they? So we've got Imola, obviously this one. We've got Spa after this one, and then Silverstone, the GP layout. And then we finish out in Hockenheim. So 4 Grade A FIA Formula 1 facilities, great track surfaces, and very, very, very well-known facilities to a lot of these drivers. So yeah, I'm sure that there'll be there's still a lot to play for in the midfield as well, isn't there? Moving away from the fight at the front with the obvious protagonists that are going to win the prizes this season. We have got so many points left to play for. As I said, you've got these drivers that have got 50, 60 points. They only need and they can risk everything in one day, more so than the guys can at the front. They're trying to compound their result throughout the work they've put in this season. And then you've got these drivers that can just really throw everything at a race and just grab a couple of 20 points, while everybody's being sensible with the risks, and then really make that jump up 4 or 5 places. Maybe even see more. I do think that what we're seeing now in the points will change significantly, and that's it's so tight. There's that massive jump between the first 4 or 5 people, and then it jumps right down to anyone's game, all the way down to sort of P15. There's not much in it at all. There really isn't. But
it's kind of crazy to see. Our at the beginning of the season, we expected our main title protagonist to be Cristiano Schegetman, and he did the first 3 quarters of the season, and now he's moved over to the F2 division, taking all of them points and leaving it up on a board, still sitting in 3rd position for the season. And Alex Gutneck and Matt Stelflug aren't really too far behind. Stelflug, I believe, is out of reach of that 3rd place position. But if Alex Gutneck could get in here and take home a couple victories, he could take that podium spot here in the driver's standings yet this season.
Yep, and if you were Alex Gutneck, that's exactly, you'd be thinking about nothing else, wouldn't you? Especially with Schegetman not there. Obviously, we have to, again, like you say, Cristiano Schegetman was promoted by Turning Point a couple races ago. We see him now a full-time member of the IFL2 grid. But yeah, it just seems a bizarre thing to do that late on in the season with that many points, and but it just throws another stick in the works that is this season, isn't it? Review of the season, reviews and things like that. Like there'll be so many things to look over when we get this done. But looking at the constructors as well, again, tight there. Those Lumos and Turning Point. Again, I'm wondering if any of those could get 2 drivers strong enough to just bring it in those last 3 or 4 rounds and just see if they could nick that 2nd or 3rd place off of RSR Esports, because they've only got 1 driver to defend it. You know she's going to be finishing strong every single week. But if you can get 2 cars up there, you can score better than her and see if you can do it. So yeah, there's many things to play for. We've got a couple of new drivers as well trying to work their way through up the grid. So again, we'll expect that order to change quite a bit over the coming races. But moving on to the session that we have right now, cold tyres and F3 cars don't mix. So only 6 minutes into the session now, we will just now start to see some real sensible laps coming in. Theoretical pole lap today. I'm going to make a stab in the dark, and I'm going to say a 1:36.8.
1:36.8, 2 seconds faster than what they're pulling right now. That would be a very fast lap. Caitlin Height currently sitting over Matt Stelflug by just over 1/10 of a second. So even though we do have cold tires, we do have somewhat warm conditions here at Imola on this November 21st. Just over 80-degree track temperature. So it is a warm track. It is a warm day. So these tires will heat up fairly quickly, but it's still going to take them 2 to 3 laps to get it in there. As we see Matt Turner come across the board with a 1:38.612, just 1/100th of a second faster than Caitlin Height. Still going to put him up top on the provisional pole. And John O'Lilly has got his vehicle number 88. He's up to 4th place. Not really, just over a tenth and a half slower than Turner's time. So our top 5 currently all within a tenth of each other.
This, I mean, look at that. That's crazy. And there we go. Height's putting in the next bar. I really do feel like what we're seeing here is like a merry-go-round. So you get like the first lap. I mean, they're all great, these top 5 drivers as well. Like we've seen a lot of these, a lot of this with these people over these last few sessions. They know the limit of their car. So the first lap on really cold tyres is X amount off the pace. And then the next lap is still a slow lap, but a lot closer to the pace. And they all come down in stages. So then the next lap, so there we go. So the last round was the 38.6, and there's 5 drivers have popped a time in between the 38.6, and now they've all creamed it off another half a second. Height's gone for a 38.1. Dewsbury's got a 38.2. They've all started to take that next step. Look, Walker with a 138.3. That came out of nowhere. This is looking like an extra session, isn't it? Matt Turner with lots and lots of purples there. Still think we're a mile away from the out-and-out pace of this track, though. Although I do think we're going to see these tyres roll off the edge. I do think that towards the end of this session, you're going to see these drivers really struggle to improve. That you're on a track that's this hot, you will get your tyres up to temperature in 3 laps, and then you'll have them optimal for 2 or 3 laps, and then they will go. Not die to the point where you can't drive on them, but they won't be able to improve on that out-and-out 1-lap pace. As we start to see 37s now, Steltflug and Turner. Kuda works, guys. The first 2 into the 37s there.
And Turner with over a half a second over top his teammate Steltflug with a 137.4, so getting really close to that 136.8 that you predicted for the qualifying lap right here, which is telling me that in the next 5 minutes I think we're going to set our pole sitter. If it's anything like we've seen this entire season, the first half of qualifying is the time to set your time. Towards later in the session, there's something about the track, whether it's more rubbered in or it just heats up a little bit from all the cars turning laps. But the second half of qualifying doesn't seem like it ever produces as much of results as the first half does. So these guys are going to be really under some pressure over the next 4 or 5 minutes to really get this run dialed in and set a really nice fast lap time. As Matt Turner currently on top of the board with his teammate Matt Steltflug, the Kuda Works guys, fighting hard to stay above Caitlin Height, doing it currently on the scoreboard. Dewsbury in 4th, and Joe Watts in the number 25 machine got his vehicle in the 5th position right now. 10 minutes out of the 25 in qualifying, 15 more minutes left to go, and we're already starting to see some of them green sectors turn to orange.
Yeah, this is it. He's got a chuffing great gap up the front, hasn't he? That's already 0.6 of a second on P, well, 0.5 of a second on P2, and then it starts to get very, very, very close again. I really do think setup is key around this place. You need to have the back end of the car rotating. You need to be really, really confident in where that back end is going to be. It needs to follow the front end real sweet, not over rotate, and you need to be able to get on the throttle really, really, really strong. So diff settings, rear camber settings, rebound settings, things like that. You've got to get your rear suspension and diff absolutely dialed in. Obviously there will be the drivers that are just driving around that, but if you really, really want to be hitting that magic button around this track, you need to have that rear end absolutely bolted. But still, we're in the 37 mid. Height there in 2nd. She's gone just a couple of tenths there shy of Turner's time. Do you think we're going to see something special today? I really do. We'll just run down the order. We've got Turner in provisional P1, Height in P2, comes into the pits now, exits the pits with Steltflug there, provisional P3. So again, Height feeling the squeeze of not having a second car to fight for, especially if the Kuda Works have now got Steltflug consistently up there with the speed. This is going to be something that Height can't fend off as much as you could if you had a second teammate to rely on there. And we've also got Redmond down in P9 and Walker in P6, so that's the other two Kuda drivers to see if they can help out. But that seemed to be just a little bit off the pace at the moment. Looking at halfway through the session, we've got Dewsbury in P4, provisional, Watts in P5, Miranda in P7, Shanna in P8. Redmond moves up to P9. Potts in P10. Oh, and we know Potts came off the back of what could potentially have been an amazing race win at Suzuka, spanning the lead, ended up making the front cover of the IFL rag. But that was a not a very funny moment. But John O'Lilly, and is that Christina Ryan? Yes, down in P12. Now we know that dancing around in the paddock, a few words flying about, that Christina Ryan has actually come from the same place that Caitlin Height came from, choosing to reserve her pace until next season. So this will be something to look out for in season 3. Guteneck in P13.
John O'Lilly just goes to P3 with a 137.769, mocking Matt Stelflug down to 4th. And there goes Brandon Walker up to 4th with a 137.842. So a few times coming in now. Matt Turner still on provisional pole as we are getting close to halfway through practice. And one thing I just noticed, and I want to mention, we were talking about Alex Guteneck. You see he's currently 4th place in points, just behind Cristiano Schegemann by, I believe it was 44 points. And he's up at the top of the board. He's one of our quickest guys. But he's currently in 13th position. At the beginning of the year, we would have never expected the level of competition to rise so much that we would see Alex Guteneck outside of the top 10 in qualifying and practice. So that just goes to show the level of the drivers that we have had join the league, and the level of the current drivers we had in the league that is just continuing to rise. These guys are getting better and better every single week, racing hard against each other. Beginning of the season, we saw safety cars almost every first lap, every first turn, and I believe we've gone 2 or 3 races now without a safety car in the first turn, let alone even in the first lap. So the skill level between our group here in the IFL F3 is continually rising, and it is really awesome to see just how competitive a lot of these drivers are.
Yeah, it's nice to see that train, isn't it? Because how that actually manifests itself in the race is, cast your mind back to season 1, race 5. You know, literally the 5th race that these guys, half this grid weren't there, and you would see that 1 or 2 or 3 guys up the top just peel off. One driver would make themselves known as the fastest, and it would be a couple of those other drivers that could maybe potentially be in that fight, and then you'd see that slow spread between there and the midfield, and then you'd see the obvious back trailing guys that didn't quite have the speed each week. And just more and more of these guys have just slipped up towards that train at the front, and as they're just understanding the car, and obviously the closer you get to those front leading pack, and the more laps that you get to see them in the first few laps before they peel off, and then you can't see them anymore. If you can hang with them for 3 or 4 or 5 laps, you can almost you can really gain in that moment and think, look, this is what they're doing different to why they're pulling away from me, and you can just really assimilate that and try to join that pack as they start to work out their race. You can just hang on to the back of it, and we see more and more people hang on to the back. Motegi was brilliant. They had a great 6 or 7 car train going for ages. I hope we see that again tonight, because that's true racing.
And Imola is a really good place for that. It does have a couple fairly long straightaways, some kind of fast corners, but there's some corners here that you really can take side by side and really do some racing. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of give and take from the inside and the outside line, because we are dealing with some fairly tight corners, but you can take some of this stuff side by side, and hopefully we do see a lot of action, especially if we can get guys close together and we can get some draft. We'll see some good moves going down into a few of our hard braking zones.
It's certainly an interesting turn 1, isn't it? As far as the Grand Prix goes, if you don't get the jump on your competitor, let's say we're talking about the lead, if you don't absolutely nail your start and they end up alongside you, and it's all to play for down into turn 1. It's a funny old turn 1, isn't it? You can commit to it, you can block off, and if you get side by side, it instantly goes back your way with the other one. We've seen accidents happen there. The sausage curbs are horrible. If you touch one, you're going to lose control and hit a car. it's a bit of a monza, isn't it? This, as far as a turn one goes, as you can see those nasty black bricks there, and if you hit, if you hit one of those curbs in either the F2 or the F3 car, it becomes very shortly after that airborne, and very shortly after that very out of control. So we'll be all looking at that, and they're all over this track. I think obviously there's some corners without, but bit too much, bit too hungry on the throttle there by Mr. Potts. Oh, god damn! Proximity getting a bit close there on the exit of that hairpin there.
Yeah, a little bit. We see, taking a look here, Caitlin Height out on track right now and doing everything she can to try to catch up to Matt Turner. And Julie Redmond snags the provisional front row from Caitlin Height with a 137.553. Wow, knocking Caitlin Height off. That's not what Height needs. Stelflug moves up past Walker into 5th position. So Height not on the front row anymore. That's going to put another driver in between her and Turner going into turn number 1, and having that front row position is something you really do want here at Imola. Just because of the first few corners, how tight they are. You want to not be in the pack. You want to not have cars in front and behind you. You'd rather just have them, maybe one car in front of you and the rest behind you. So Height's going to definitely be working hard. She's not that far off, about 0.04 of a second slower than Redmond's time there. She's got 7 minutes to get it done. So we'll see if Height can actually get it back out, as we see our provisional pole sitter, Matt Turner, hit the picks. He might be calling it a day, or he might be going in and coming out for one more run, as we see a few drivers exiting the pit lane. 6-7 minutes is what we've got, and that's about enough time to get a lap or two in after getting your tires warmed up. So I think anything that we see from here on out, anybody exiting the pits and coming back out for another run, I don't think they're going to really get a good time in, because they're not going to have enough time to get them tires warm. But everybody that we've got on the racetrack, which seems to be almost everybody, but I believe 2 or 3 drivers. So we'll see what we've got. But currently, it's Turner, Redmond, Height, Lilly, and Stelflug, your top 5, all within 0.4 of a second each other.
I'm still a bit shocked. I mean, we keep our eyes on what is happening in the paddock over the week, and the sort of times that we were talking about. I did predict a 36, and we're not seeing. We're a chunk off of where I said, didn't I? What did I say? A 36.8, and we're a good 6 or 7 tenths off of that. But the order's still correct. I'm blown away by Redmond's P2 there, provisional. I mean, yeah, it's just another thing for Height to think about, and this is something that the other drivers haven't experienced much this season. So we've had Height obviously quicker and calmly quicker as well, as we see Danny O'Keefe with all personal best sectors there. He's really stitching it in 20-minute mark. But yeah, this is just something that they've not experienced. It's like watching Hamilton peel away from the session each week, and then all of a sudden, he's P3, struggling for that out-and-out pace. The drivers around would be thinking, hey, look, I'm actually in with a fight here today. Do you know what I mean? It raises everybody's expectations. She's got to be aware of that. Everyone's going to be super fighty. A lot of the drivers around her have a lot less to risk than she does, and she's got to just keep it clean, and not let this title lead that she's worked up for sway the other way. And it's going to be difficult. So this is him. No, that was clean. That was super clean. That was super clean. It was super clean through Ravazza 1 and 2. He got a good exit, and he's put it into P3. Knocked Caitlin Height down to the 2nd row.
Whoa, Caitlin Height still coming back with 4 green sectors herself. She's going to move herself back up to P2 with a 137.450. 300ths off of Matt Turner's fastest time with 3 minutes left to go in qualifying.
Whoa, bit of rally driving there. She was, that was obviously the limit. Break. That is a Spinella. We see the debris all over the track there. I wonder if, and then it all disappears. But yeah, on the front row, I believe that's it now. With a wall spin like that, that's a very okay. That's as fast as I can go. because there's only 3 minutes left on the session, and we've still got Steltflug and Turner and things like that out there hunting for this time, so we may still see that change. She is definitely being challenged today. She has had the obvious pace advantage at a lot of races, and we've seen a trend now, haven't we? We've seen this, and they've got a whole bunch of drivers. They've got 3 CUDA drivers up there today. She is in a great big CUDA sandwich. Top 4.
And then Brandon Walker's right there in 6th in the other CUDA Evo car. So they definitely are out in force today. Not sure if it's just the track or if they all got together and got a nice setup that worked. But it's definitely showing right now. Caitlin Height still not going to get that top spot. So I believe we haven't seen anybody else even come somewhat close. I believe we're going to crown Matt Turner our pole sitter again.
Alexander Shanna, keep our eyes to Shanna. He's about to do something good, honestly.
Can he get it up in the top 5 for the start of the race?
He doesn't use all the exit curb there on Ravazza 2, but can he make this lap work for him? This looks really good. Purple middle sector. Is he going to throw it straight into all those fast cars?
5th place for Alexander Shanna. That's going to be his best starting position since his return back to the IFL 3. He is going to be extremely happy about that position. What a run for him.
He's got a race on his hands now. This is the 3rd race for him back to the IFL 3. And the first 2 have been very, very, very much a race to forget for him. So today is all about redemption and having a good couple of 3 races before the season goes, and we're not racing again until February. But he is right up there with the fast guys and girls, isn't he? This is just going to be really, really tough. And this is exactly what we see Shanna do. He's got the pace. He shows us that he knows what he's doing, but under the heat of the moment like that, he just seems to crack every time.
So we also are coming off that 1 week of downtime, that off time where we traveled back from Japan back to Europe. So we had that extra week. Maybe Shanna got in the car and did like he would a week and practiced a bunch and just got a little bit back more comfortable with the car and got back to his feelings. There was no pressure. There was no race coming up. He didn't have to try to perform. It was a nice, relaxing week to be able to get comfortable with the car again, and it's really showing here as he takes P5. That's going to be the end of qualifying. Everybody's going to be able to finish up their laps, but Matt Turner is going to take the pole. Caitlin Height in 2nd, and there you see Julie Redmond taking the pit entrance, getting a little bit of practice there. She's going to take home 3rd with Matt Steltflug in 4th. What a qualifying session we just had.
Yeah, that was crazy. And again, I'm just really, 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 really impressed with the speed. Just the sheer the gaps. The gap is insane. Absolutely insane. These guys are just getting more and more and more competitive with each other. Because this is the thing, isn't it? If you had someone walk on the grid that was miles faster than everybody else, those that can jump that gap and try to do something and spot where that extra grip is, they would find it. So the bar and wherever it's being set right now, this grid is finding its bar, and they're just finding what's quick enough and what is needed to be done to win one of these races. And there's just more and more and more drivers keep popping up. I really, really can't call this race. It's going to be nuts down to T1. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Just take a small moment. Yeah, carry on.
Man, 32 laps coming up here, and that we just watched what 6 or 7 laps, pretty decently, and oh man, these guys were all spread out. They weren't racing each other. They were racing the clock, and now we're gonna have about 5.5, 6 minutes before we get going green. We're gonna have a little 5-minute warm-up session. With how close these drivers are, what's going through these guys' mind? Caitlin Height was in 3rd place just a minute ago, and she jumped up and hit almost an identical time to Matt Turner. Turner's been fast today, but and he's been on point, and he's been laser focused the last few weeks, doing a great job trying to reel Caitlin Height for that championship, and he's shown it again. He's up top. He's been up top. He was fastest in practice, but is that Caitlin Height and Julie Redmond and Stelflug getting faster and Alexander Shanna there now. All these drivers, what kind of pressure is Matt Turner under? And you think Caitlin Height's really feeling some pressure, or is she just kind of playing around with Matt at the moment?
It's certainly a different type of pressure, isn't it? I wouldn't like to call which one's under more pressure, but Turner's on the offensive, and arguably very much on the back foot. It's a long and quite unrealistic call to charge for the driver's title. For them, a realistic objective is just to score best with both with both CUDA Works cars, and just try to keep that P1 in the constructors. So just have both drivers finish well, and don't let her take that back. But naturally, the driver in you just wants to. You just want to, if the math is still there, you want to see if she can do it. If she has a bad weekend today and you can maximise on it. I mean, with regards to actual race pressure, Caitlin is sat up there on her own in amongst a whole bunch of CUDA cars. So that is a hell of a lot of pressure that with Matt being the lead of those CUDA cars, before, let's say, provided he gets the start and into turn 1 first, he is under a hell of a lot less pressure than she is. She needs to jump him off the line and she needs to get into turn 1 first. To make her race today and not get involved with too many of those CUDA cars, which I do. They're all so close. They're all so close on pace that they're all, teamwork. I do suspect there's going to be teamwork going on. It's exactly the sort of stuff we're fighting for.
The top 4 all within 0.2 of each other. The top 10 all within 0.7 of each other. That's 3/4 of a second is separates first through 10th. So it's going to be a fairly close race today. I believe that if we get some side-by-side battling between someone, that's gonna really be a factor for someone getting away from the pack. With how close it is right now, I see maybe the top 3 or 4 gap the pack just a little bit. But if we see some side-by-side action, I expect to see someone try to make the most of that and put a gap between him and the drivers behind that are battling, because I think that's going to be really the only way to keep that track position and actually gain a little bit on someone from behind. At 32 laps, honestly, is going to go by fairly quick here at Imola. It is a very fast racetrack, so the race should just be about 40 minutes long if we don't get a safety car, and we've had some fairly clean races. So what do you think we're going to see with pit stops today? I feel like they're going to be definitely under green flag, and people know that if you come sooner or fairly early in the race, you can make it to the end on fuel. So there's a lot of strategy open for the race today if it does go green.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm feeling my heart's starting to go now. I can feel the excitement starting to build. I can see the words in the paddock and things. I can see things shaping up. It's pressure on. It's absolutely pressure on, and this is a very, very, very high fuel consumption circuit as well. So your options with fuel, and more so the time that you lose having loads of fuel. So the strategy for a big heavy car this week comes into play, running long and things like that, because it won't actually be much longer and you will get a decent advantage from it. The driver that calls it short and has a light car, calling it short here will be a massive advantage, because on a circuit where you wouldn't use much fuel, the calling it short, you're not really pulling much fuel out of the car. But with this circuit, you could potentially see some real heavy loads and some adverse really light loads. So the pace difference, if I was Caitlin right now, I'd be thinking something like, with all these cars around me, I'm just going to literally chuck 10 litres of fuel in the car, and I'm going to do 6 qualifying laps and pit at the earliest possible time, fill my car up, and just hopefully stay out of the traffic and just see if I can rotate this circuit in a fresh space away from all of this fighting. I'd be trying to think something like that, or go long and lose the pace and let them go and just keep chugging in that pace and let them get stuck into their pit strategies, and hopefully they'll strip over each other. There's a lot of things to think of, and like I said, at this track with a heavy fuel load, you really will see a difference more here than a lot of other places. Just 30 seconds to go now before we grid up around 15. Very excited, Rob.
Oh, Caitlin Height could possibly take the championship, the drivers' championship that is today. So that's one thing that we know now for the next races coming up. There's 4 races to go, every single race, Caitlin Height can seal the deal.
the
But every
math-
single race, Matt Turner can close that distance and make it harder for her to do that. So him starting on the pole today is definitely going to help him out with that. But he's got to drive hard. He's got to drive clean, and that's going to be, I think, the main thing today here at Imola is a clean race. You got to have a clean race in order to make it to the end. Honestly.
Yeah, if he has a bad result today, that throws it. Right, she needs 81 points. I will do the math as soon as we hit checkered flag at the end, and I will jump straight to the position and I will do the math. Obviously, if it's close, but she needs 81 points, 82 points. Otherwise, it would effectively could be a tie. But she needs 82 points, walking out from Imola today to seal the deal. And that's it. We are sat in our final minute before we look forward to 32 laps of the Grand Prix Emilia Romagna. Just a quick word there in our last 30 seconds of the late Ayrton Senna, who we know died here shortly after Roland Ratzenberg on the day before, way back in 1994, on a very solemn weekend for Formula and all motorsport worldwide. But we hope to shed good positive memories at Imola moving forward as we see it return to the Formula One calendar for the first time. As we're staring down at 5 lights now, Caitlin on the outside, Matt on the inside with the racing line. Actually, Kate's got the rubber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. We're racing in Imola.
Julie
Excellent.
Redmond doesn't grit up. She's going to lose that third place starting position. And Matt Turner gets a great start over Caitlin Height.
Julie opted to start from the pit lane. Matt
Oh,
makes
there's a big wreck
big
going on!
combo.
Big problems way in the back. 4, 5, 6 cars off. What a drive. That's
great to
Alexander Shanna right there coming out. And that's
good.
going to be our first safety car. What happened there? I think it started with Alexander Shanna getting hit.
Unfortunate there. We're going to have to look back to see which drivers got tagged up in that. There was at least 4 that I could see. Oh yeah, look. No, one of the CUDA drivers! Is that Steltflug? Ah! What happened? What happened? Oh, so many cars.
I believe Brandon Walker got into the back of Alexander Shanna and caused all of that.
They are very lucky up the front not to be caught in all that stuff, but Shanna gets a good run and Brandon Walker tags Shanna up the back, which just throws
And it looks
everything.
like 2 teammates right there got into each other too. One teammate spun the other teammate out
Did he just
in front of the wreck. No, his
that was
teammate hit him as well, so that was a team
He's got
issue.
Oh.
I believe, was that Ollie Ricks? No, that was not Ollie Ricks. I wasn't sure what team that was.
That
It
is
looks like a
Jono.
new team, but...
That's Dewsbury and Lily, I believe. Oh man. Oh. Massive title implication. Now, the first thing I've got to say is, why did Redmond start from the pits? She had a great position up there in P4-3 or something like that, right near up the front. I mean, to be honest, it probably wouldn't have done her any favours looking at that. So probably best that she did what she did. But where is she already?
18th position. Yep.
Oh, so yeah, it's showing a lap down on my screen, but I'm not sure if the computers are just what they are. But nobody should be a lap down on what is effectively only just the start of lap 2. So Turner and
Unless she didn't
Height?
come out of the pits until
It's
everybody
Height.
else
It's Height.
passed. But
Where is Height? 13. What is happening? We've got a car at the back of the grid going backwards. Whoa, okay, I think one of them just realised there that the pit lane was actually shut. Did Caitlin just file into the pits then? I don't understand what's going on or what I've just seen there, because the pit lane's not open yet, and she didn't have any damage, and we're way too early for it to be made to the end on the fuel that you'd be given. So I am a little bit bemused on the situation with Caitlin Height and why she sat so far down, but this does put... I mean, unless I'm missing something ridiculous here.
oh, and there's
Like
got a
that-
spinner under caution. Nick Marshall is backwards trying to catch up to the field.
Yeah, cold tires getting colder. God, things happening today.
Wow.
Things happening today. We saw you were, yeah.
That totally changes up our grid position.
It does.
Because now we've got Matt Turner in first, Brandon Walker in second, Joe Watts in third, Alex Gutenek up to fourth, and Jacob Potts in fifth.
I certainly predict as well Walker's going to have a little smidge of wing damage. Yep, I can just see there's a little tiny bend on his front wing there. So, I mean, it depends on how bad that is. Depends on what sort of downforce level he's going to lose. But it was only a little touch, so he might be okay. Sat in a very good position despite the incident there that obviously cost quite a few. I mean, it looked like it definitely cost Shanna, definitely picked up Steltflug, and then I think the two teammates behind that had their moment, and obviously one of them's got away with it. Watts has got away with it there, sat P3, and his teammate not being so lucky there. Oh no, it was the other two, wasn't it? It was the other two. It was Dewsbury and Lilly, and they both did go off, didn't they? So they are both at the back paying the heavy penalty for that contact there. And I'm just not sure why Redmond. We got drivers coming into the pit now, so they must be on their green lap. We've got Steltflug into the pits, we've got Shanna into the pits, we've got Walker into the pits to fix that damage. I knew that. So he obviously isn't happy to run with the risk of maybe losing a little bit of downforce there. But they're getting around this circuit quite quickly. We're already on lap 3, so we've already had 2 laps under the safety car there. Whole bunch of drivers now file into the back of the grid, Redmond included, but she will be allowed to resume in front of those, or I'm not sure if iRacing will ask her to give those positions back. But Redmond currently sat in P14, so yeah, current situation, Turner in the lead from Watts in second, Gutenek in third now. Oh god, this is even more than it was. Okay, so we've gone from Matt Turner to having all the support of his entire team and the sister team there to having absolutely none. But
yeah, all the rest of
his
the
main rival,
drivers.
yeah, but his main rival's now sat in P12, so this is just thrown on its head in one move.
Yeah, and all of his teammates, the CUDA Evo drivers and his teammates Steltflug and the CUDA Works machine are all behind Caitlin Height back in the field too. So we know Caitlin Height doesn't stay in the back of the field for long. She comes up quick, she comes up clean. Right now, with the gap that Turner has on her, when the green flag drops, Turner's got to go. He's got to go. He's got to put down the fastest laps he can, as fast as he can, and gain as much on the field as he can while Caitlin Height is fighting her way through the field. And if he can do that, if he can nail his pit stop right, that's going to seal Turner's win here if he can do it and keep him above Caitlin Height. If he has any mistakes, we've seen him make a couple mistakes while leading, which has lost him time and the lead. So he can't be making those mistakes right now. He's got to make sure he stays clean. But with Caitlin Height falling that far back, he will have the chance to put a little bit of a gap on her.
Yeah, and we know we've got at least, I mean, the lights are still on the safety car, so we've still got at least a couple of minutes to be talking about what's going on in this race. There's a lot of things happening, apart from everything that you've just said there. It goes in with that. Caitlin's now in a position where she's got to take a lot of risk. Do you know what I mean? And even if she takes it steady and uses all of these next 30 laps to slowly open up this grid and work her way back to the front, it's going to put Matt in a clever position anyway. Provided Watts doesn't launch himself for this, he's got to do the restart as well, because Watts has got nothing to lose. This is his first race, he's in a great position, and Matt's got a whole season's worth of a story riding on his shoulders, and being the only person there that's capable of taking that driver's title away from Caitlin Height. If you could write it down if you could ask the gods for one wish, this is exactly what Matt needed to happen, and this is exactly what Caitlin didn't need to happen. We have seen her come a crop a couple of times this season, only when she's got to cut through those grids or tries to outsmart the field and pits on a safety car to get that free pit stop, and then she has to work her way back through the grid. We've seen her hit a couple of times It's just difficult, isn't it? It's just difficult to get your way from where she is all the way back up to the front and then charge for the win. So Matt's got that platform today. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's a different colour car, but look who's in P4. And that inverted very quickly, so neither of those two drivers had the out-and-out pace to be where they are. So in just half a lap's time when we get going, we have got our work cut out as cameramen to keep this race informed, because we're going to get the most incredible grid compression. We've got Turner, arguably probably one of the only drivers in position right now. We've got Gutnick, Potts, and things not, and Ryan O'Keefe not quite got the pace to be up there. Looking at the qualifying, and then you've got this heap of drivers at the back: Steltflug, Walker, Shanna, Dewsbury, Redmond, Lilly, Height. They are all. I mean, that's literally half the grid. That's the back half of the grid are going to be looking to U-turn and overturn the front half of the grid. And they need to get it done. This is going to be crazy. This is going to be, and they're going to, it's going to be all happening at the back. And like you said before, Turner needs to just, while all that's going on and all those risks are being taken, Turner just needs to get away. I mean, the most exciting races are the ones where the grids are flipped. And this is exactly what's happened. Everyone that's got pace has gone to the back bar, Matt Turner. Not saying that everyone that hasn't got any pace, but the back end of the grid are sat right in the middle, and that midfield have been shuffled right up to the front. Pressure, and we know all of these drivers, they're human, they're going to deal with all of this pressure slightly differently. You're going to see some of these drivers drop it now under the new pressure they're on, and some capitalise and maximise, and this will be the moment that turns their race from being a dire one to a very good one. But I do think we're going to see some teamwork from Gutnick and Potts. They're in sister teams, but that means nothing.
Don't forget about Ollie Ricks there in the 95 in 5th position. That is Joe Watts' teammate. So here we go, getting ready to come down the final straight. The pace car's about to be out. The field is going to be in the hands of Matt Turner. And when Matt Turner hits the gas, we're going to go.
Whoa,
and he's on it, and they're right on him. He didn't get much of a jump, but Alex Gutnick's going to try to take his advantage on Joe Watts, and that's going to give Matt Turner that time to get away, because this is a fast corner, and these guys are going to be side by side, so they're going to have to lose a little bit of time, but Gutnick's going to get by Watts before they reach the corner, and Turner has a really rough corner, and Alex Gutnick's going to try to take advantage. He's going to try to look to the inside, but Joe Watts is looking to the inside of Gutnick. He's got to move to the outside. Matt Turner, he tries to defend on the inside, but Gutnick gets a great run on the outside. Alex Gutnick takes the lead.
And then he ran a little bit wide there as well, so Matt's going to take up the inside there. He's definitely going to be onto it. This is absolutely crazy now as we move from Tosa up to Puratella. Oh, this is too many cars looking for the inside line. There's too many cars that are fighting, and we just got to take a note of what's going on at the back there. They are starting. Walker's going side by side there with Lilly. See who can come out for it. Already taken Redmond, sorry, not Walker. This is crazy at the front though, absolutely crazy.
Turner's got to be careful. He's right in the middle of a battle of cars that really just want to win. They don't have that chance at the championship, but they just want that win. He needs to be safe while battling and defending here, but he doesn't want to lose a lot of time. He gets a little bit of a lockup.
Redmond off. Redmond in the pits, no! We have our first tow back to the pits there in Redmond. I think she spanked the wall pretty damn hard. But as we keep the fight alive, we're going down to Reviatsa 1, and they're side by side. Drivers with everything. Oh, Matt Turner to catch a bit of grass there, loses another position. Come on, this is exactly what Matt doesn't need. As he's going to come under threat up the back straight away from Potts. And I wonder if Matt can use this to jump back. He has. I think that car's a little bit faster in a straight line. He breezed past that purple car with ease. Both of those cars did. And it didn't look like he did anything wrong on the exit there, Watts. As Turner and Goot... Oh, as we see...
And Jacob Potts goes... Oh! It's Joe Watts! Joe Watts is off!
How? Oh,
and that is one destroyed race car for Joe Watts.
Oh, god damn. That is absolutely devastating for Watts then. He was in such a good position there. It's just so fighty up the front, isn't it? So fighty. As we try to keep our eye on what's going on in the rest of the circuit. We've got some massive grid compressions coming on at the back as the two XRL drivers try to make their way through the grid. We've got Steltflug still at the back there, trying to play it safe with Brandon Walker, trying to steadily work their way through the grid. Currently sat pretty much plumb last, those two. But we've got this midfield. Oh, as we see Stuart Gibbons running incredibly wide there, going around Piratella.
Caitlin Heights may RFD, and there's a big wreck right in front of everybody. Ryan O'Keefe, Christina Ryan and O'Keefe are in a big problem right in the middle of the racetrack. Whoa, right in front of Caitlin Height. Height gained 2 spots there, but I think she went off track.
This is one of those title deciding races. I do believe we're seeing history in the making here for IFL as we see another one of the Wolfpack racing cars go off at Variante Alta. There's so much going on. There's so much going on.
And Matt Turner's taking to Alex Gutnick, looking at the outside, going into turn number 1 for the lead. He's gonna be side by side as they make it there. Gutnick's gonna take it safe. Matt Turner back to the front.
That super difficult, and the move wasn't done, wasn't it? He came into Tamburello side by side. You got to commit, but Gutnick's back on. I feel like these two drivers are quite equal. He's looking very slicey today, Gutnick. Matt Turner taking to a bit of gravel there. Potts taking it up, and Potts is going to shoot for the lead up the inside. No, thinking slightly better of it. Matt needs to gather himself here. I feel like he's got... It's all going to his head, Matt. I feel like it's all going to his head. He's definitely got the speed, but this is just an incredible race. This is just an incredible race already, and we're only 7 laps down. Oh damn. Watts in the pits there with a smashed up car. Redmond, I'm sure, will be with yeah, quite far down there, but she's still choosing to come out because anything can happen. O'Keefe right at the back there. Marshall Steltflew a couple of places up with Walker. I guess they'll be steady moving way back there. Christina Ryan there. I'm not sure if she copped damage in that accident that we saw there, but already there. Oh, we've got a move on Walker on Ryan. Walker takes Christina Ryan into Variante Alta. Excellent move there. As Steltflug's probably going to be looking to do exactly the same thing going down into Reviata 1. There's too many places to point the camera because the fight at the front is absolutely cooking with gas. We've got these three on it all the way down the back straight. Matt Turner choosing to the outside. He's going to go 3 wide down the back straight. This is incredible stuff for the lead of the Grand Prix here.
Who's going to back out? Goodnick, Potts, or Turner? Nobody's backing out going into turn 1. Potts he goes off track.
Clean though, no black curbs, and this is going to bring Rick straight into the game. XRL are picking up absolute pieces here, absolute scenes for round 15. Pressure on, these guys are just feeling it, aren't they? This is really mad, and Caitlin Height is all the way back up to P6 and only a few seconds off the lead already. This is exactly what Turner didn't need. He needed to get away, and he hasn't got away, and I think we're seeing a great drive from Height here. She's going to make absolute mincemeat of these three and peel up to the lead fight. There are so many laps to go. They're already going. Potts is fighting for it again. These drivers are so close in pace. And Miranda up there in P5. Incredible. We know that he's good for a podium. We know that he's consistent. Height. Oh, this is crazy. Rick's getting caught out of Variante Alta. No, that's Aqua Minerale. Doing its thing again. Height on Miranda coming into Variante Alta. Got to think better of it because there's nothing you can do unless you're on the side. Can she make a move going down into Ravazza 1? Whoo! This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy stuff. The cars are still in a huge pack.
And this is what we talked about, wasn't it? You might be able to pull away if the cars behind you start battling, but if you get stuck in a battle, you can't do nothing. You can't go nowhere. You are stuck where you're at, and you need to battle for that position. As we got to battle for the lead, Matt Turner making a move on Alex Gutneck going down the stripe. Gonna be side by side as they go into turn number 1, and Matt Turner's gonna have the inside.
Oh, early on he got that done, very early on. He made Gutneck choose the side of the road early on. He made him choose right at the beginning of the straight just to cover off what happened last time. Gutneck going well this time. Potts didn't overshoot this time. Caitlin in P4. Miranda pushing in P5. Rick's just slipping down to P6 there with that small mistake. And Lily and Dewsbury from their early on mistake, remember they were off at T1. They've come all the way back up into both of those, got points, scoring points. So they are not out of this race by a long way. As we see Gutneck already fighting back at the outside.
But Jacob Potts is back in the action. He's back up there. It takes only 1/2 of a lap for these guys to be side by side for the car behind to catch it. Caitlin Height is up to 4th. These guys go side by side for one more turn, and Caitlin Height's going to be there. What a wonderful defensive move by Turner there. But Caitlin Height is catching these guys, and she's bringing Miranda with. So we're going to have a 5-way battle for the lead. Matt Turner did not need this. He needs Caitlin Height to be battling with the people behind him, and he might get that whisk. Caitlin is catching up to Potts and Gutneck. If he could get Caitlin Height to battle with those two as he gets the smallest gap, he might have a chance to get a second ahead and be able to keep it, but he's got to keep them tires cool now. He's got to keep his head cool, and he's got to not make any mistakes, because it looks like we're separating out just a little bit because the nerves became too much for these guys. They had to separate out a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just going to kick back on. We're going to see a bit of flare coming into turn 1 here. Down into Tamburello between two sort of sister teammates there, and Height's going to be looking at all this from behind, hoping, I guess, they hit each other. But Matt Turner, you are right. I do think Matt's got superior corner speed as I see him come through the Riviats 1 and 2. But Potts looking at the inside of Gutneck. Oh, they touch! Oh, and Caitlin's going to be set. Oh, and she touches the back end of this and it's gone off. This is exactly what Height didn't need. I wonder if she's got a bit of floor damage there. That was exactly what she didn't need. I said this, she was looking at those two coming down, and just because they touched, they lost so much time. And she had the gap, but they had nowhere to go. They can't just disappear.
And that gives Matt Turner a 3-second lead over top. That's exactly what Matt Turner needed.
Yeah.
Working his way up. His teammate, Matt Stelflug, in 11th place now, almost getting into the points. So that's what he needs with Caitlin Height down in 6th with possible damage. 10 laps out of 32, 22 more laps to go left here at Imola.
Yeah, and still many pace race cars with great pace yet to fulfill their destiny this afternoon. There's 22 laps to go, and Caitlin Height is looking to make an opportunistic move there on Ricks as he gets a bad exit coming out of Acqua Minerale. Does it way before Variante Alta as she looks to pick off these podium guys now. But yeah, this is that was definitely a lap to forget for Caitlin Height, but that played into Matt Turner's hands absolutely superbly as we see Miranda look for the inside there on Gutneck, getting it done nice and cleanly. Again, this is going to play into Height because we're looking at the two Lumos guys. I think they're going to end up fighting it again, coming down into Tamburello, but Height's looking to make easy meat of Potts coming down. She's already got the inside line if she can keep that car there. Potts is going to get the slipstream for his teammate, and they're going to drag in Gutneck.
And he's off! Oh! There's a tire bouncing across the track, and Jacob Potts is going to be down on turn 1. And then Gutneck goes off the track. Was there contact with Height and Gutneck? Gutneck's now falling back.
Yeah. That looked fairly choppy from Caitlin there. I saw contact. I mean, 3 wide didn't work that time coming down the back straight, but I saw some very aggressive Caitlin driving there. I wonder if she's got some damage from that. She is really going to be looking to... I mean, that's it. Potts down the back and Gutneck all the way down to P7. I don't think Gutneck's got any damage, but Potts will absolutely be... I mean, he's in the pits. So Height up to a podium position there, albeit a very pushy way of doing it. Miranda sat miraculously in P2, Dewsbury in P4, Ricks in P5, Lily P6, Gutneck tied in P7. He's lost a lot of places this round with that contact into the first set of corners there. Oh, this is absolutely crazy. Matt Turner has got himself a lead and a half.
5 seconds out in front of Rodrigo Miranda, and 7 seconds over top of most likely damaged Caitlin Height. So I have to imagine, since we're getting close to the halfway point here, we should be seeing a few pit stops happen with some damaged race cars. As we see, oh no! Stelflug and Martin get together, and that collects it. I think that's gonna be another safety car, but oh man, another wreck between Gibbons, Stelflug. Oh
we do
my
see a safety
gosh!
car. That was crazy.
Whoa, we are gonna have to rewind that and see what just
We caught the back end of it, didn't we?
happened.
This is gonna. We are right in the middle of the race, and there's a safety car. We are really gonna have to keep ourselves on our toes to because this is gonna blow the whole
So
damn
Chris
race.
Martin gets loose, spins out in front of Stelflug, which then pops him into Stuart Gibbons and in front of the rest of the field.
Under the inside. Look at that. And Christina manages to sweep on underneath all three of them there. Imola is playing tricks with these drivers today, Rob. It really is proving to be a mega challenge for these drivers. I mean, the F2 race yesterday wasn't much different to this one, so I don't really know what I expected. Second safety car in on the 12th lap here in the Emilia Romagna. Oh my
I don't
God!
know
So
how
that
much more
lead,
my nerves can take. This is a race.
You're Matt Turner right now. You're just gonna see that lead evaporate.
But it also will give him that chance to get fuel, get that pit stop in, and I mean, he's got to hope that they're at that point where you know you can make it. You're over a third of the way through. We know we can make it. So he's got to hope that when he hits Pete Road, everybody else goes, yeah, we're going to have to do that because the leader's doing it, and go and take pit road. And that he might get a couple cars that stay out in front of him, but definitely not the cars that have got that superior pace to him, because there's only maybe one or two drivers that can match his pace, if not be a little bit superior to it. So he's only got a couple drivers. They're behind him. He's really got to get that pit stop in and then focus at this last half of the race and get it gone. You can see right there, he's caught up to the safety car. There's nobody around. Rodrigo Miranda is still trying to catch up. A big bummer for Matt Turner, but wow, what a drive. And it's his teammate that is in the safety car issue. So tough break for the Kudu Works drivers. That's the second issue for Stelflug. I believe he probably already used his fast repair, so that might be a race-ending issue for Stelflug, which is a big bummer for the Kudu Works guys. But a little bit of good news for Caitlin Height, because that's one less driver that's going to score points against her, and she can maintain that 3 or 4 point gap in the constructors standings and minimize the loss to the Kudu Works guys.
I mean, I don't know if we can get a replay. Well, we've got a bit of time set while these guys work out. I'll keep us updated like Ted does in the pit lane with who's stopping and who's what. But if we could maybe get a replay on that 3-wide action that we happened a couple of laps ago between Gutknecht and Caitlin and Jacob Potts, because that was just some of the most fighty stuff I think we've ever seen in the IFL. I mean, that was just absolute swords out. I mean, she goes to the middle there, and that was just so. I mean, that's definitely not intentional, because there's not really a lot you can do when the 3-wide. There was a gap there, and she certainly went for that gap, and the gap kind of opens up right at the last minute as well. So they're kind of trying to draft each other, these guys, and Potts chooses to go to the inside and hug the wall there, and at the very last minute, Gutknecht pulls across. Potts has got to stay, so she's got no option but to use that run. And there, she's not even aware that she's done that. And then to come swooping in, and then Gutknecht's still there. I mean, actually, from Kate's onboard there, that looked all fair and square. To be fair, they probably should have done a slightly better job relinquishing that position. But just from the offboard, the collateral damage there was just absolutely enormous for Lumos there. Look, it's just insane. And it's the perception, isn't it, what things can look like from the outside. I mean, just looking at the decisions and the gaps that she had to choose from coming into that. I mean, she left the cars room as well. She left the width on she did leave space for all of that.
I'm sorry,
Just
but we've got
really
cars in the
tight
pits.
up.
Matt Turner in the pits, followed by the rest of the field. Ricks, Lilly, and Gibbons stay out on track. All of our leaders, everybody on pit road.
Yeah, this is again, it's going to add another amount of grid compaction because we've got that. We're going to get that compression again from these drivers that are going to again attempt to move their way up the field. I think Steltflug has opted to.
And who's going to get out of pit road first? It looks like Matt Turner's going to make it out. Rodrigo Miranda behind Caitlin Height behind Miranda.
So where does this feed out when it comes to actual track position? Because what you've got now is
Three
the
cars
driver
out front that have not pitted yet.
yeah. So there'll be a spattering of drivers that try that don't pit now, that don't quite catch on to the fact that that's the best strategy, and then you'll have drivers that have pitted through. I know we saw a couple of drivers pit from a couple of solitary accidents around lap 6 or 7. And those drivers that pitted, and obviously if they filled up enough fuel, they may get to the end. All of those clashes that we saw on lap 1, and all of those people that we saw pit, so Redman, we saw Redman, Steltflug, I know Steltflug's pitted again, but we saw Redman, Steltflug, and Walker, Shanna and all that, they all pitted early on. None of those guys will make it to the end, so they will have to have at least pitted under this safety car, or pit some point during the race. You know what I mean? They've got to make that decision now, or have already made that decision, because lights are out on the safety car, which means we are going to be racing. No, they're not out on the safety car, so we've got one more lap after this. As Ricks is going to be leading the pack as we get back up to full speed from his sister team mate, Lilly, in the other XRL car. Gibbons in third. That is his best, that's the best position that he's ever been in, I believe. And Turner is the first of these. You said these top 3 haven't pitted, so Turner managed to get out and back in the lead, and is ahead of Miranda and Height and Dewsbury and Gootneck and Walker and Shanna and Ryan and Keith, all these people that have pitted that could potentially be a threat to these top 3, or theoretical top 3 in Turner, Miranda and Height. I do believe we might be staring at the podium there, but I mean, there's so much left to play for as we just click over halfway at round 15 for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. This is just absolutely, if you could have asked me where we would be sat on lap 14 and told me this, Ricks would be in the lead from Lilly, under safety car, from Gibbons, from Turner, from Miranda, from Height, from Dewsbury, I'd be paying you money to show me that race, because that's just...
Now, one thing we got to pay attention to, we are just about halfway, I believe, now. And Caitlin Height is sitting in 6th position. Now, we saw all that contact a couple times. She went off track, you mentioned, all that stuff. Most likely, she had to use her fix on that pit stop. So, if she gets any damage or anything happens, that's race over. That's you know, parking it. That's having a lot of time fixing. So, these next few laps, especially with a few cars out front that haven't pitted yet, everybody around you on cold tires, you know, as we see the lights go off on a safety car, we're getting one to go. Everybody's going to try to keep them tires warm, but she's really got to be careful with all these drivers around. As we've seen the first couple times going into turn 1, it's been a bit messy from about 3rd or 4th on back. So one thing to watch is damage. You got to make sure your car's clean. You made your pit stop. This is the car you got to the end of the race.
Yeah, and we did see, I'm still not sure what she did on lap 1 when that first safety car came in, because she wasn't caught in anything. You won't better make it to the end if you fuel up on lap 1. And she definitely shot from the front to the back, which is what's put Caitlin in this mess in the first place. The fact that she was back there when all this kicked off, she was one of those drivers trying to come through the grid, causing that compression from the midfield guys and sort of adding that pressure, as it were, being one of those closing cars. I mean, the 2 cars that she made contact with were just 2 cars on that long list of cars that she had to work through to get back up to the front. And I'll say now, it's still, from a stewarding perspective, it still looked very fair and square. Although 2 drivers having incidents, I'm not sure if she will be divvied out a penalty coming out of this race. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see how the stewards view it. But it's critical moments, isn't it? It's absolutely critical. She's watching a championship potentially fade away. I mean, it just started. If you were Caitlin, it was just starting to look like everything that Matt needed to happen happened, and everything that she didn't need to happen happened. And that's exactly how you lose titles, by having multiple races like that. You have such a comfortable lead, and it just gets decimated in 2 or 3 really unlucky races, and all the work you have done over 12, 15 races gets undone in 3. It's just too many things happening, isn't it? It's just so much position changing, and still a load more compression to go. So we've still got. I do believe we're going to see a resurgent Julie Redman. We're going to see a resurgent Curtis Martin. He didn't quite have killer instinct pace, but he was certainly in a better position before all that happened. Alexander Shanna's kind of worked his way back to sort of, I assume, somewhere close to where he should be on pace. Brandon Walker's done a lucky job to get him back. Alex Gutenek's going to have the world in his dog. And all the fire in the world in his heart to try and redeem himself, and he's only 2 positions away from the offending vehicle that he came in contact with. So, and you know, Jono and Ollie are just going to be looking to maximise on what they've got there in the lead position. As we see these guys jump in the pit now, what can we do from the lead of this race? Rix is looking to be fighting with this one already. He's choosing the old weave. Blocking off Turner big time. And Turner's going to get Lily. This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt Lily straight away. He's going to pay for that. He's going to pay for that straight away. That was a silly move. He should have been on his teammate rather than been looking at the car behind. But he's looking to super chop. Matt having to take to the outside. Caitlin already under pressure there from Gutenek behind. Oh, they're going too wide for Miranda and Caitlin, but they'll keep each other space there. Alex has got a great run there on Miranda, but can't do anything with it because it's just an awkward corner and you've got to keep side by side. Oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy. Oh! No way! Absolutely no way! Miranda loses control! Spins out at Tosa. No way! That's such an awkward uphill exit, that one. And if you've got cold tyres, absolute diabolical one there for Rodrigo Miranda. He could have had an absolute dead cert podium today. This race is doing it already again. This is crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. As we see Rix maintain the lead. He's going to have led an entire lap in the IFL for the first time from Turner, who I'm assuming may have a teensy bit of damage from that contact there. But I assume, actually, going back to what we said about height, I think she may have a bit of damage as well. Because that second repair, she won't have had that. And Gutenek is super fighty. Look, he's just jumping straight on. But these leading cars have run away with this straight away. Dewsbury's up there. Walker's up there looking better than he did. He's jumped a couple of places already. Shanna there already. They just run a little bit wide going into Ravazza 1 and 2. I think Brandon is going to pit. Not sure why, because it would have been very sensible to pit under safety car, because now he's going to lose the entire grid's worth of grid positions and fall very, very, very far down the grid. And that's actually going to move Redman and Curtis Martin back up into the points there, as Rix is doing a superb job there. Again, a couple of tenths slower than Turner, but doing everything he needs to do to lead this race. This is crazy. Walker in the pit lane, Lily in the pit lane, Miranda in the pit lane at the end of lap 17. We've still got a whole bunch of drivers winning and losing today, as Rodrigo Miranda chooses obviously to come in the pit lane to fix what must be a little bit of damage he caught on the inside of that hairpin. The wall's quite close there. Can Turner push up and take the lead from Rix nice and cleanly? And can Caitlin get back up into P2, or maybe even take the lead to minimize the damage? I mean, she's done well so far to get to P3. You'd say that's maximum damage, minimum damage already achieved. Matt will only oh, as we see Rick spin coming out of Variante Outer. that must have just been too much power. The curb is nice and flat there. Either that or too much entry curb onto the second apex there and just spinning there, and he spins all the way down to P6 and comes under fire from Keith already. See, that is it. Pressure. You lead a few laps and it just gets to you. It just gets to you straight away. So Turner reassumes the lead from Caitlin Height in P2, Alex Gutenek P3, Dewsbury in P4. Shanna's worked his way cleverly all the way back up to P5. Rick slotting back in there in P6 with a slightly burnished set of tyres there. Already looking to fire on the back of Alexander Shanna coming into Tamburello. Not quite close enough. Shanna with a nice late brake pedal there. This is already so many things still happening up and down the grid. This is still lots of 2x2s having fights. We're still looking. I think the closest fight on tracks is Rick's on Shanna. And now we're going to see Dewsbury on the back of Gutenek as well, fighting for a podium shot there. We know that Dewsbury is not a slouch, and he had a terrible crash with his he had a terrible crash with his teammate back at the beginning of this race. Oh, hey, Caitlin running very, very, very wide into Piratella there. It's super easy to do that. You just carry a little bit too much speed, and if you've got a nice hot set of tyres or a cold set of tyres, you just catch a bit of understeer coming through there. Oh, so many drivers on the edge now as we see a bit of cloud cover coming over the Emilia Romagna. Caitlin's pushing this one hard as Rix loses a position to Keith there. As we see Dewsbury on the back of Gutenek for a podium spot already. He's going to come down. Gutenek chose to go on the inside as we pop into Ravazza 1. Covers him off nicely.
Hey, Gutenek locks up, slides into Dewsbury. That's going to open up the door for Alexander Shanna to take 4th place. Shanna's on the back of Gutenek looking for a podium.
Yep. Dewsbury's going to get the draft, but obviously so Shanna. So, and if he helps his teammate out, Shanna's going to keep the draft there, and it's going to fend off. See, it's happening right now. Dewsbury had the run there, and he's just not been able to keep that run all the way up there because he didn't get the toe from his teammate. But Shanna's looking to make a way past Gutenek already. I think there must have been a bit of team play there as we see another car off. Rick spins off into Tamburello. I think that was a genuine spin. I don't think that was any contact. But he's going to lose a whole heap of time. The race is just falling apart for Rick's there. He had the lead just 2 laps ago. He had the lead of this Grand Prix, and now he is all the way back down in P11, out of the points. How it can racing just does this. It can just go from great to absolutely nowhere, and you've got to keep your nerves and come back and fight the week after. Tough stuff there for Ollie Ricks. Tough stuff there. Turner getting the lead. Height is still there. She's going to want to win this race, but Turner this is it now. It's pressure on for both of them. They're both going to be feeling the heat big time as the Lumos guys 3 and 4 there, as we see Dewsbury's fighting Gutenek straight away. I wonder if Gutenek's got a little bit of damage here. I just don't think he can hold the pace that he had earlier. Outbreak Dewsbury there. Dewsbury thinking better of it going into Variante Alto. There's a horrible corner there as they come all the way down to Ravazza 1. Alex Gutenek taking the inside again. Will he do the same as what he can Dewsbury get ahead this time, or as he thinks better of it? He knows what Gutenek's going to do.
This Matt Turner is gaining on Caitlin Height. That's 0.4 of a second that lap. As we come across the stripe, 13 more laps to go. And Matt Turner is gaining out there. Still 13. Battling here, but look what we got here in 7th position. Julie Redmond, who failed to start in 3rd, takes over 6th position from Danny O'Keefe. O'Keefe going to try to battle back, but Redmond's got the preferred line. She's going to gain some time due to that entrance by O'Keefe. Moved Redmond up to 6th, and she's going to be working on Gutenek and Dewsbury there, who are fighting each other out front.
Whoa. I just see some incredible closing speed. Did you see that as she came absolutely barraging down there into Villeneuve? She had some crazy corner entry speed going in there. The closing speed was absolutely immense. I feel like Redmond's absolutely on one. She can smell a result today, and that race looked like a dud, didn't it, for Redmond? Right at she started from the pit lane. I'm still not sure why. I mean, hopefully she can make it all the way to the podium and we can have a chat with her and ask what the hell happened, but we'll have to look into that after the race and see how she ended up starting from the pit lane. Maybe she just chose to avoid all that damage that we clearly saw. going into Tamburello on lap 1 there, but I do think Gutknecht's carrying a bit of damage there because he's just slipped way back from Shanna. Shanna's a mile away already hunting down the top 2. I do think he's got a hell of a job if he thinks he's going to catch these 2, because she's a whole heap of time ahead of him. And you are right, she's just ever so slightly catching Turner there with just 10 laps to go there. Matt with a 38.1 and Height with a 38.1. This is neck and neck. These drivers are so close together, aren't they? They really are. And we're going down, and Redmond's already on for another move. She's going to take what I really am highly suspecting is a broken Gutknecht, but he's still got the inside line. Can he keep that inside line? And can he keep it keen on the brakes? Redmond's going to close the door. He thinks better of it. She takes the wide line, and the move is done. Can he do anything about it? Coming back down into Villeneuve. No, she covers off the inside line just as he thinks about doing anything there, and she's got this corner nailed. This is where I said she had incredible closing speed last time. I feel like she's got a great head, Redmond. She doesn't make these clumsy mid-race mistakes that just... I mean, we saw her have a small mistake in Motegi, but she doesn't seem to make these self-made mistakes there as she's moving to the inside to try and cut this corner off and get a nice straight run going into Peratella. Nice healthy amount of exit curb there. Obviously that is available there for everyone to use. Super difficult corner down at Acqua Minerale. You can just get caught out on any number of lap coming into there. It's a very committed fast corner there. But Alex Shanna having it his way. He's got back onto the podium after a really dogged start of the race, and if he can keep that, that'll be his best result back this time coming into the IFL3. We know he's on he's a podium sitter in the IFL3 and the IFL2, so this will be a staunch move to bring his name and his team back to where they should be. And we know there's only a smidge of points separating Turning Point and Lumos in the constructors, so that will flip on its head as well. Whew! Steltflug unable to be there. He's a DNF today, so he's unable to continue that constructors fight with Matt Turner. But if Matt keeps it the way he is, they will stay in the lead, because one driver does the same. One driver will score 25 points and the other driver will score 18 points, and the constructors in points lead will actually increase between Kuda Works and RSR Esports there. But I do feel like Height's done an incredible job today to get back to where she is. Still 9 laps to go, just shy of 9 laps to go. Crazy stuff. We look up and down the grid to see if there's any more fights and closing speed there as Redmond's looking to bridge the gap between Gutknecht and Dewsbury, and she has made that gap very quickly indeed. So I do believe in maybe a lap and a half's time we will see sparks fly between those 2 drivers as well. And do we have enough time for Julie to work her way all the way back up to Shanna, who is currently setting about half a second less pace than she is?
Well, she has 10 laps to go once these leaders get to the stripe, and then she's only 3 seconds back behind Alexander Shanna at the moment. Looks like Shanna might be putting a little bit of time on her, but if she works hard, she might be able to get it. But with 10 laps to go, I would more be setting my sights on Dewsbury, who's just a second in front of you. And if you can get him, then cool. But I wouldn't be really super focused on trying to reach that podium. She's done a pretty good job of starting in the back and working her way up and salvaging a decent race. As you see, Matt Turner puts over a half a second on Caitlin Height that lap. 2.5 seconds now to gap back from 1.7 seconds. So a full second.
Already on the
something
outside.
happened.
We're missing an overtaking maneuver. Redmond on the outside. I think Dewsbury's going to cover it off. Redmond keeps a good proximity. Just loses a little bit of speed going through turn 2. Can she do anything about it coming down into Villeneuve? I think this is just a little bit off the cards. She's just a little bit too far behind. But if she can get Villeneuve absolutely dialed, she can go into Toaster with a better entry. This is it. She's very close. Dewsbury definitely under some pressure here from a hungry Redmond. And if Dewsbury keeps this up, you're right, it will throw the opportunity of a podium definitely off the cards. But if she can get this in and out and done in this next lap, she may be able to apply some pressure to Shanna, who we know when is under pressure, we know that he does make mistakes when you pressure him. So, and he's got himself back to a podium, and we know he's going to be thinking he'll be sweating like mad in that cockpit. Oh, very close now going through Acqua Minerale, and this is actually bringing Gutknecht back into play now as well. Brandon Walker doing a move on Nicholas Marshall there just to keep that one informed. He's just got one more position to get back in the points, but I'm not sure if he's going to catch Martin there. Gibbons sat well in P9. Just trying to recover on what has been basically an insane race.
And Dewsbury goes off track. That might let Redmond catch up here, and that was a bad place to go off track on the last turn. That's going to allow Redmond to get the speed down the straightaway and the slipstream. I don't know if it was enough to slow Dewsbury down enough. I don't think it was, but
he must have been really pushing because he built that gap, didn't he? Look, I mean, he's lost all of it now, but he must have been really pushing to gain the gap that he had done. And she's going to go for a launch round the outside, locks up, goes across the and he makes his whole mistake. And Gutenek flies through the pair of them like the samurai. Absolutely amazing stuff there from Gutenek, and O'Keefe is going to take this as well. Whoa, how one little mistake can be so costly. She was staring at the face of a podium there, and she's just slipped all the way down to P6, and that was such a small mistake. Such a small mistake. It just shows you that after 24 laps, these drivers are nip-tuck for these points. I mean, that's just a big points change in such a small moment. I mean, this is racing, isn't it? That's exactly how you want it to be. A little mistake, and it costs you lots. Les Samurai and Gutenek, that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing as he went through Tamburello there with the sword well and truly out, that man.
And having damage, it really shows you how much he knows what he needs. He needs to gain that little bit of time. He can't do it in speed, he can't do it in pace, he's got some damage. So he's seen an incident in front of him, and he's like, yep, I gotta push him through here. I need to get the time. I could get a couple spots. You know, we got 7 or 8 laps to go. They may catch me and try to battle me again, but I've been able to somewhat hold people off a little bit throughout this race. So great move by Alex Gutenek to get himself back up into 4th position and get the Lumos Esports in 3rd and 4th to get some decent points out of the day for that team.
Yeah, I still think it's going to change. Redmond, I think, may get close enough on this time round. I think she's got a great car there. It's looking like, even with the slipstream there, that was a very, very, very tasty run, and she's being forced round the outside again, but she just made this mistake on the last lap. This time she makes it work and avoids the sausage curb on the inside and gets it done into Tamburello. What a fantastic move round the outside of O'Keefe. And Christina Ryan is right on the back of this pack, and you know how much speed you have to kill to go through to go through Tamburello side by side, which they both did. That put Christina right there. So there's still many points to play for, but Redmond back up into P5. And Gutenek, yeah, he's worked out the damage of the car.
So Caitlin Hyde has gone off track and lost a bunch of time.
Oh.
6 seconds the gap now to Matt Turner. So something happened with Caitlin Hyde. What happened here? Trying to chase down Matt Turner and just goes way off track and misses the kern or something. Not exactly sure what happened there, but tough break for Caitlin Hyde. I think that's going to seal the deal in the race unless Matt Turner makes a mistake, because he's now 5.8 seconds out in front with, I believe, 6 laps to go now?
I think you might get a slowdown for that as well. If you take that line, I'm pretty sure even though you lost time, I'm pretty sure you come back on with a 2-second slowdown. I might be corrected on that, but either way, yeah, Matt was pulling away anyway, wasn't he? He was just chipping it. He'd 5 tenths on that previous lap, and then he did 2 tenths the lap after that. I was keeping an eye on the lap times, and he was just pulling away. I mean, I actually went on board with him just for a second there, just to see, and it just seems to be a really, really nice car. It seems to be very, very grippy in the corners. He's pulling away in mid-speed and on the straight. And we know these cars don't have DRS, but we know that Caitlin's got a little bit of damage. But I know we've seen Matt in the wars today as well. He has tapped a couple of drivers, so maybe it's just not worked out quite in favour of Caitlin, as she just hasn't quite got the damage in the same place. Gutenek, I think, is hurting there as well. I do think he's losing a good 8 or 9 tenths a lap. As we see Gutenek and Redmond dicing for this. This should be a good, clean fight. 2 of the most skilled drivers on the grid. Gutenek covering off the inside, going into Piratella.
Gutnick just has great corner speed. You see Julie get a great run on him into the corner, but he can just carry so much speed through the corner with that car, even with the little bit of damage he has. I'm guessing it's got to be floor damage because he doesn't have the straightaway speed, but man, look at that corner speed. He just gets a car length or two on Redmond through the corner sections. She gains right back up to him down the straightaway in the braking section, but then Julie Redmond gets into Gutnick. He's backwards in the freaking chicane.
Was the longest and that was a very long and hard lunge. That was a very, very, very long. I wonder if she just outbraked herself there. And once you realise you've outbraked yourself, you've just got to go for the gap and hope that your opponent can see you. As we got a very loose Christina Ryan in the last corner and manages to save that. Was absolutely incredible car control from Christina Ryan there. But Redmond's choosing to come into the pit lane there as she slides over the speed limit line. I wonder if she's going to get a pit entry penalty there as well. The tardy exit coming out of the second Reviazza is going to cost Christina, I think, this position here. She's just going to lose that 5th position from Dewsbury. Is going to cover off the inside going into Tamburello. Both having to kill a hell of a lot of speed. Christina still wants to fight for this. I really want to see a replay of that car control coming into the last corner from the cockpit view, because you would have seen some absolute monster seesawing on the wheel there. I was convinced she was going to lose control of that car, and she didn't. That was amazing, amazing car control going into Reviazza 1 and Reviazza 2 there. Absolutely amazing. I'm absolutely blown away by that. Absolutely blown away. She lost control of that car at least 6 or 7 times coming between Reviazza 1 and Reviazza 2. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Stunning driving. As we're just having a few technical difficulties with there. We've got Nick Marshall and Nick Marshall and Rodrigo Miranda just swapping places there. Miranda trying to make his way back up through the race. Very, very tough race as Matt Turner continues to extend his lead as a 37.6. He is absolutely smashing this place to the ground. Just having some on-screen difficulties there. I do believe our stream has absolutely frozen up solid there.
I'm not having any issues, but I'm not sure what you were seeing. We got Turner out front. We've got 5 more laps to go here at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Turner out in front of Caitlin Height by 5.8 seconds. 5.3 seconds now. Caitlin Height really trying to battle back. Or Matt Turner made a small mistake, but Height has gained about 0.7 of a second on Turner over the last few laps. But as long as Turner can keep it straight, keep it going, he's going to take home the win here at Imola and bring him that much closer to Caitlin Height. He probably would have wished she would have finished back there in 12th and not gotten any points, but gaining 4 or 5 points on Height is always a good feeling, and beating her in the race is also another one. But look who we got in the podium position, still up there. Alexander Shanna, 3rd race back to the IFL F3 and right back where he belongs and where he's always been, up top on the podium. Been a hard race, tough race, some incidents at the beginning, but coming through and staying clean for the rest of the race and just putting your head down and driving really makes you go places.
Yeah, that's it. And I do think as well that we are going to see we're going to start to see some incident counts. I do wonder if we see any penalties being handed out. Obviously, if you hit the 16 limit, you have to serve a drive-through. I mean, this has been a fairly bashful race for a lot of these drivers. We've seen a lot of contact, and you know that every time you contact, it takes 4 of those opportunities away from you to have a little moment off track, which would normally be a ×1. As we see 2 teammates. No, we don't. This is Christina Ryan fighting hard with Gutnick now. Not Gutnick, Dewsbury. My apologies there, as Christina Ryan's looking for a way past going down into Villeneuve. There's not really a lot you can do unless you're absolutely bang side by side. And I think Dewsbury just covered that one off quite well there to make sure that he got the run going through Tosa. as they blast all the way up to Piratella. I think he just covered that off quite well there. He just put his car in the right place and gained the ground and became a visual obstruction for a quite clearly pushy Christina there. Don't think we've seen the best of Christina yet. I think there's a hidden samurai warrior in that car as well, for sure. By the way, what the hell I just saw going into routes 1 and 2, that takes the most incredible car control and reactions to do stuff like that, and she would not be sat in P6 if she hadn't done that. So and that's it. There's a result riding on it, and she'd just be another driver in a long list of drivers today that's made a mistake and paid massively for it. But yeah, back up to the story up the front, like you said, the CUDA team kind of fell to bits today, didn't it? I mean, Matt Turner's kind of proved that he is the superior CUDA driver, and there is a reason he is the only one mathematically capable of taking this championship fight to Caitlin. He is the driver that has got the pace, and he is the driver that has been delivering and smacking in wins and podiums like no other driver other than Caitlin herself. Asserting his position, and this is it. And when you know that when he's here now, you know he's not going to spin off. There's 2 laps before the end. It's pretty much concrete. He's under no pressure from behind. He's banging in absolutely consistent lap times, and this is what you need to do to be a threat. This is what you need to do, and he's handled pressure today. Caitlin's handled pressure today. They've both managed to get themselves back to the P1 and P2 where they need to be. Caitlin doing an incredible job to maximise the damage. Matt Turner doing everything he could. I do believe, like you said, he will be wishing and hoping that that maybe she could have finished a few places, or maybe the team could have finished a couple of places ahead of her, especially with the pace that they had. But you cannot be unhappy with a win and a points jump, albeit a small one, on the person you're trying to chase in the championship lead. Again, I will check the points live as we go over the checkered flag and do some math quickly and just review what it was and what it is now. It was 63, I think, coming into this race. So if he chews this out...
Turner does have the fastest lap as he comes across. 2 more laps to go here at Imola. He's got a 4.8 second gap over Caitlin Height as we're taking a little ride inboard with the CUDA Works number 23 machine. And it looks like we had a car off there. It looks like Nicholas Marshall spun out and gotten towed to the pits there. So tough break for Nicholas Marshall. Looks like he's going to be down in 15th position.
These 2 drivers.
Christina Ryan finally gets by Jewsbury. They're battling back and forth, side by side.
Still right the way. Look, second to last lap, penultimate lap, and we're dealing with points changes right up there at the top end still, and they are an absolute mile. Shanna is a mile off these 2. They're just showing Turner and Height, just showing that barring calamity, they really are special. They really are. I mean, to do this week in, week out, that's the whole point, isn't it? That is the whole point. We go to many different circuits. We throw many different challenges. We go to twisty circuits. We go to fast circuits. We go to circuits where you're allowed to have a lot of downforce. We go to circuits where you're not. We do massive lap counts. We do cold. We do hot. You throw everything you can as we see these drivers working their way around a heavily rubbered in Imola. You throw everything you can to see who is the best, and they must deliver week in, week out, and they've got to do this over a season. It is not a race-long game, it is a season. As much as you can broaden each corner and each lap into races and into seasons and into momentum, it becomes really threatening. And these 2 drivers just showing that they consistently have that little edge over the entire field every time. It's these 2 guys every time. So we show great moments from other drivers. We see speed from many other drivers. We see glimpses of a massive potential in these drivers. But when it rolls down to the 32nd lap on round 15, who's P1 and who's P2? Them 2 again. It's yeah, amazing stuff. It really is something special to see these guys do this stuff week in, week out. It's a pleasure to watch. It really is. Tough break for a couple of these drivers. Redmond's had a tough break. Steltflug's had a tough break. Marshall, we just see, has had a tough break. Ricks there was leading at one point, had an incredibly tough break. We see Gibbons spin. Potts has been absolutely violated up the back straight there. He had an incredible run up to that point, and he was looking incredibly fighty. Miranda span going down at the exit of Tosa. For those of us that are just joining us now, we are seeing Matt Turner come into Rabiazza 1 and then Rabiazza 2 for the first time, and there's a very slow car coming over that doesn't get out of the way just before he comes and starts his celebrations. This is Matt Turner taking one of many wins this season in an absolutely crucial title fight with Caitlin Height, who finishes in a superb second position there, and back an absolute mile off, way down the road is a Alexander Shanna. I mean, that is the best he could manage today. I'm sure he will be absolutely amazed with a podium there. As we're still seeing fights between Christina that got part. Oh, as Dewsbury just shoots off into Rabiazza 1, just denies him the chance to fight back coming up the back straight the very last time. As we see O'Keefe finish for his best result in the IFL in P4. Christina Ryan P5, Dewsbury P6, Alex Gutnick, he'll be kicking himself with a damaged car in P7, Walker in P8 there, Lily in 9th, Curtis Martin, a new driver today, finishing out the point scoring finish there for 1 point. Rodrigo Miranda with probably a race to forget. It looked like just a bad mistake, a very crucial part of the race, and back to the pits for a stop, and no points for Miranda today. Gibbons in P12. Ricks, I really feel for Ricks today. Had a couple of laps there where he was leading the race and he just couldn't handle the pressure like that. But it's something to learn from, and when he finds himself back in that position again, he will be remembering Imola. God damn. Redmond finishing P14. I think she will be absolutely kicking herself today as well. She was on fire today. She had great pace, and we see some crazy overtaking maneuvers, but at the end of the day, a couple of risks there, just a bit too far, and ultimately costing her again some great points and potentially maybe even a podium there. And Marshall rounding out the finishers as we see Stelflo, Potts and Watts, our 3 DNF finishers for round 15, and that rounds out the Grand Prix de Emilia Romagna. What a ridiculously difficult race for these drivers, Rob. What a ridiculous race.
Yeah, like we talked about at the beginning, staying clean, staying on the racetrack was key. And I believe the only person that was able to do that today was Matt Turner. I believe Matt Turner did have a few off tracks, but I believe he was the only one to really actually keep it clean, keep it on the racetrack, and keep it off other drivers. And it shows with him up 4.2 seconds over top of Caitlin Height for, I believe this is his third or fourth win in the last like 5 races. So amazing drive by Matt Turner once again, coming out on top of the board. Caitlin Height in second, finishing somehow. I still don't know. We'll have to find out from her what happened at the start of that race and that dropped her down to 13th position. And Alexander Shanna getting back on the podium on his 3rd race back with the IFL 3. Great drive for Shanna today. It wasn't the greatest start, but he came back and sealed the deal and put himself in a good position.
This is yeah. I mean, I'm just taking a look down the paddock at some of the words that we've got there. We've at least got our P3 finisher. Alexander Shanna there, but yeah, what an incredible drive by Matt Turner. We see him have a couple of little moments there, didn't we? That was definitely not an easy win. There was some touchy-feely going on there in the middle of the race, right at the beginning there. Those first 10 laps were very difficult, and that safety car on lap 12, and the gap that he had into that safety car, and the moment into turn 1 from Brandon Walker and all that. Damn. Absolutely. Well, yeah, you said as well, Matt winning a whole bunch of races, so it just shows you when you crack the code to winning a race, you tend to know how to re-emulate that result again, especially with seasons as well. So if you worked out especially if it's not a fluke win, if you genuinely had a great setup and you got a great qualifying result and you converted that on the track, you kind of get a feel for what it is that really just happened or had to happen, and you know what it takes to re-emulate. You know what I mean? It's like Caitlin. The people that win a race tend to know how to do it again. So And yeah, and this is it. Once Matt got a sniff of the top step, it's been really, really, really hard to keep him off. So, and if he doesn't finish on the top step, he's at least on the podium. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely mega race there. As we just get a word from our P3 finisher for his first podium in the IFL3 since his comeback from F2. So we're just getting to the booth now. Alexander Shanna, dude, what a podium!
Yeah, that was quite a race.
You wait.
I don't know how I got up into third. I know me and Alex worked together on a couple moves there, but all of a sudden I'm in third, running behind Caitlin and Matt. So,
Yeah. Well, you're going to enjoy watching it back, discovering how all of that turned out, because that was a fairly eventful, archaic race in many senses from start to finish. It's hard to even recall it, so we won't go into a race review in the middle of your interview. So, main thing is, cracking podium, first podium back in the IFL3, first podium in the IFL3 since season 1. We know you've done this before, so it's good to see you back here.
oh yeah, it's nice to be back on the podium. Like I said, it just kind of all fell into place, and we know we needed points. We're a little ways back, farther than we want to be at this point in the year, but we're not mathematically out of the equation for taking the constructors championship. So we knew we needed to come to the weekend and get points, and that's what we did.
So you were having a little battle there with John O'Lilly, and your teammate Alex Gutneck was right there, and in front of you actually, and he kind of let you by. Was that like team orders? Like, hey, I've got a busted car. Why don't you get in front of me and I'll hold this guy up a little bit so you can get away? Or was that just pure Gutneck having a slower car and you were able to get by him?
Well, we kind of from qualifying and practice, and where he ended up on the grid to start, we knew I had a little bit more pace than Alex, than Gutnick, but going down that straight, it was just kind of last second decision. I will say it was team orders a little bit, but we both were on the same page with it. I had the draft behind him. Me and him were working together to fight off Lily, and he jumped over, A, to cut Lily off a little bit from trying the overtake on me, and then B, to let me by on top of it, and then I drove away. The biggest problem with that whole thing was we were full on fuel, full 9 gallons at that point. So it was hard to get that maneuver done, and I just didn't want to throw the car too wide coming out of that turn and take my own teammate out, because it's happened before, and we hate when it happens.
Yeah. I mean, what were your thoughts going into T1? That just all happened right in front of you, didn't it? Well, actually, I think it happened slightly next to you, didn't it? It was Brandon Walker made the mistake and hit
Me. It happened
yeah,
to me.
yeah. And then you caught stealth fluke. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, that was going into T1 was, yeah, I figured it would happen. And I was ready for it. Third place, I'm not sure who didn't grid up, but third place left a big gap between first and second and myself. So I was just trying to keep up with Stealth Plug, and I ended up getting next to him. I think I had a little bit better of a jump. So I'm like, great, this is perfect. I'm right where I want to be. I'm right in the podium position. Even if we hit a safety car at this point, we're going to be good. And I knew I had tons of space behind me. I had tons of space in front of me with the leaders. And all of a sudden, I just see a bunch of yellow in my rearview mirror, and I'm going off the track, hitting a bunch of people. And I'm actually watching the replay back now. And yeah, it was heartbreaking at that point. I'm like, are you kidding me? Since being back in the IFL3, it's just been so heartbreaking, race after race after race. Something has gone wrong, and this happened, and I'm like,
Straight away.
when's something gonna go right?
Yeah.
T1, it's going wrong, and I'm like, at least it's a big enough incident to where we're gonna get yellow. I can get damage repair. I can recover, and obviously I did recover a little bit, I guess.
Well, you recovered to an absolutely mental podium. I mean, there was just so much. I mean, a lot of other stuff had to happen for you to come back to P3. But that's racing. So many fights up and down the grid. It didn't stop all the way to the end. They were fighting coming around the last corner, on the last lap. So it was absolutely crazy. But yeah. The most important thing is you back on the podium. And that is it. You've got. I think you've just taken a whole chunk of points out of turning point as well. So you may have just put yourselves back into P3 in the constructors title.
You know, that would be nice to be back up into the top three. And like I said, mathematically, we're not out of it, so we don't stop. We just keep plugging away.
And you no doubt the discussion for you guys as a team tonight will most certainly be the well, yeah, there was a lot of contact between blue cars today and a certain Caitlin Height. So there's a moment to be had there. I'm sure footage will be reviewed, but
Yep.
into turn one, you guys were just so tight. So you had the inside on. I can't remember who you had the inside. Potts, was it you had the inside on, and somebody had. There was 3 rows of 2 cars, and you
Yep.
all
I was
compressed
next to
it.
Spell Plug. Caitlin and Matt were there. I know Alex Gutnick was a few cars back from me. Same with Jake. He was kind of sandwiched in the middle, but I don't know where everybody else was. I've got to yet to watch that part back.
And these cars don't dart about, do they? So you see on a real life Formula One race, you'll see at the beginning of a race start when everyone starts shuffling about coming into that first turn, people start darting about and choosing a bit of track. These cars don't do that on cold tires, and they're also F3s, not F1. So you kind of, once you've picked a space, you're committed to it, and then you pick a braking point, and if it's not the right one, there it is.
Yeah,
As we race start now on the stream, this is crazy. So we're just gonna talk you through what's happening. So you got the inside of Stelfug there. Walker taps you up the back, and then it's just straight off the end.
yeah, nothing I can do there. Like I said, I braked. I knew we were all full on fuel. We're cold tires, and I gave plenty of room behind, plenty of room in front. And I figured, hey, I'm getting through this turn. I'm taking not one but 2 positions with the absent car, and it just threw me wide. And I was at a loss. I just saw, like I said, a bunch of yellow in the mirror, and then all of a sudden I'm in the sand, and I was able to get it going again. Not too much damage. The car was able to be driven back to the pits. Uh, you know,
Yeah,
got going again.
that's it. You were with a big wave of cars. I mean, you were part of the story when we were streaming and when we were thinking about what we were going to do on that safety car restart. There were so many cars out of position that had great speed at the back of the grid. It was literally a grid invert. Everyone that was fast, apart from Matt Turner, was at the back, and all the midfield and the back were all shuffled back up to the front. And that just, I mean, that kind of rumbled on.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
didn't ever really stop.
and I felt it. There were so many turns where as a qualifying P5, and I have everybody else on the grid right in front of me now. I know I'm going to be a lot faster than at least 5 to 10 of the cars. So it's going into some of these turns. It's weird braking points and weird areas that I'm trying to get by, and it just was it was a a nightmare there for a little bit. I feel like I would have had a little bit more of a fight there at the end to try and push up near Caitlin and Matt, but I think I had some front right wing damage coming out of the chicane that ended up putting Brandon Walker over, I think, on incident points. But he slowed down quite a bit and kind of was right there in the exit and was going slow, and I tried to avoid him, but I think we just barely tapped my front right wing to his rear left, and it was just a little bit slower. I could feel a little bit of understeer in it, not tons, but enough to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, you managed to recover really, really well, dude. You got a first podium, and I hope you can re-emulate that a couple of times before now and the end of the season. We've got 3 more rounds to go, whole bunch of points left up for grabs, and things can still change. The picture of this season can still change a lot.
Yep, yeah, and we're these are the European tracks coming up. Imola, obviously, I'm a fan of. Spa, we got some really nice ones coming up that are very well known by a lot of the drivers, but I feel great about them. I think Gutnick feels great about them, so we're going to try and do our best to upset the leaders there in the constructors championship.
Well, dude, go and enjoy the party. I'm sure you'll be deep in discussion with your team because a couple of other members of your team had a rough race. So I'll let you get back to the team as we crack on with our stream, dialing up the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. But what a race!
I'd like to just do a quick shout out. A sponsors, B admin, You guys do a great job. You guys up in the booth, awesome job. My loving wife who lets me do this week in and week out and doesn't decide to kill me. And my family's in town, so shout out to them because I think they were watching while we were going around the track here. And then just every other driver out there, you guys make this happen. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Alexander Shanna bringing home his first podium back to the IFL F3 division. And coming up next, we have got the man of the hour, the winner of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix here at Imola, Matt Turner, is joining us here in the booth.
We will get him in right now. Mr. Winner, chicken dinner. Mate, that was phenomenal. You had a car and a half. Yep,
it was lovely. Lovely to drive. Lovely weekend overall. Very happy.
That tough first half of the race, though, wasn't it? Bit argy-bargy there. Lot went on.
Yeah. There were some hard-fought battles, which were definitely fun, if not a little stressful. But got it all worked out in the end. I think, unfortunately, I did have contact with Alex Skutnek at one point, but I haven't watched it back. I'm not sure there was much I could do.
We definitely had some drivers on the grid with their samurai swords well and truly out. That was the fightiest race I've seen from a lot of our drivers. It's coming to the season close, isn't it now? We said this at the back. There's drivers like yourself and Caitlin that in one sense you can't risk anything, but at the other sense you have to. No, this is exactly when it matters. And then there's all these drivers around that have got X amount of 10, 15 points or whatever, and they've got absolutely nothing to do with the title fight, nothing to lose, and they can just afford to send it around main title protagonists. It just makes it so fight, and it just exploded straight away. Everybody that was supposed to be at the front ended up at the back straight away, which just added this huge compression, and then just drivers all out of pace left, right, and center. It's insane. Drivers fighting with people that had never fought with them before. That's what I think we saw a lot of today. People overtaking people they've never done that with yet.
Yeah, there was a lot of mix of calibers up and down the grid as everyone got shuffled, or some people got through clean, some got held up by the incidents. And it made for a very interesting race.
So just tell us up here at the booth there how you felt with that 12.5-second gap and the safety car came out.
Yeah, not too happy, but is what it is. Yeah, can't really do anything about it.
Talk us through the start of that race and what kind of pressure was on you? What was going through your mind? You had Alex Gutenek, you had Ollie Ricks, you had Joe Watts, you had guys up there really putting on some serious pressure, really giving you some serious battle. You did some nice defensive moves, and it was really probably the riskiest position you've been in all season. How did you keep your composure, and what was going through your mind?
So it was just a lot of just thinking about getting in the clean laps, not getting those off tracks, because I was thinking that I potentially have the pace, but if I push it too hard, then incidents could rack up, and just try to keep it all together nice and tight, and try and limit the risk of the race.
You did. I mean, you'd have liked for Caitlin to finish a little few more points, with all those team members around you. Hopefully, for you, it would have played out a little bit nicer if more of those could have been in front, especially as you all had such close pace at the start. But they just all dropped it straight away, and you were the only one left.
Yeah, it was definitely unfortunate. Like, my teammate Matt, had a bit of an incident early on, but after he'd used his fast repair and still had damage, he was quite helpful and acted as a spotter for me. And it's nice to keep a cool head with someone about.
That's it. Super. And another win. I mean, you only sneak a point, but this is exactly what you need to just keep it alive. You've got 3 more rounds to go. There's just still so many laps to be driven in this fight, and it's although it's not a huge chunk of points, it is points in the right direction.
Yep, looking forward to the remaining 3 races.
3 races. Dude, go and enjoy the party tonight. It's mixed feelings at the CUDA camp, I'm sure, with Stelpflug at the back and you at the front. So,
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to your team and have a good. But yeah, well done on the win, buddy. Well done. One of many.
Perfect. Cheers, guys. You have a good one.
You too, buddy.
Another fantastic drive by Matt Turner in the CUDA F3 team, inching ever so much closer to Caitlin Height's lead, cutting it back another, 5 points I think he gained on Height with having the fastest lap. And I don't know if he had the cleanest race. He seemed like he probably did. So he may have gotten another point for that one. But at least, what is it, the difference between first and second place? At least 4 or 5 points, something like that, with the fastest lap?
It's 25 for a win and 18 for a second, so it's 7 points. And if you get the fastest lap as well, that's 8 points.
So 8 points that Turner gained on Height in both the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. So pulling a little bit out further away from her in the Constructors and the teams there, and just inching ever so much closer and trying to reel her in and make it possible to take that championship out from under her. Matt Turner with another win. Wow, what a race we had. Matt Turner had a great start. The rest of the field didn't, and it really jumbled up things. A lot of the drivers we thought we were going to be in the top 5 were nowhere near it, and a lot of the drivers we expected to be, lower top 10 were in the top 5. So what a crazy turn of events for round number 15. We go to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps next week. One of my most favorite races. I cannot wait to be there and call it and go racing. It is going to be one of probably the greatest weekends of our IFL history and of season 2. And it's another one of those. It could be a championship deciding race.
Yep, and we're looking at the points now. Caitlin is currently sat with 255 points to Matt Turner's 198. So there is a 57-point gap, and there was a 65-point gap. So although it's still a long way off, it's just another weekend in favour of the CUDA squad. But Caitlin doing everything she can there to minimize